And this week we're talking about Frieza and if it's possible for him to become a main villain again and what he would need to do to become a main villain. So, Frieza was the original main. Well, I guess technically Piccolo, but obviously he was the main. And since then he's been pushed down the pecking order.
To me, it's kind of just starting to become like Team Rocket. Like it's just
Yeah.
lasting off again.
Hmm.
And I think it's like I think the Broly film kind of summed it up quite a lot. He kind of became a bit of a joke in as a bad guy in the Broly film, where he literally they they just said, "Here you go, Frieza," and Broly battered him for how long was it? An hour in
Yeah.
film time because they failed the first fusion or
Yeah.
something like that. So half an hour, an hour until they got it right, and that's literally all that happened to Frieza. He
Mm.
was a punching bag throughout the film, and then he went away.
Which is mental when you think about the tournament of power and the fact Frieza
Yeah,
survived until the end. And then Broly's just like, yeah, nothing.
and
Wow.
it's and you have to think like he's just so he lost on Namek, and he came back as Mecha Freezer, and he immediately got sliced and diced by Trunks.
Mm-hmm.
And he came back in Resurrection F, and he immediately he got kicked back by Goku, and he made the silly mistake that Goku made, but then Vegeta just absolutely ripped him to shreds.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then there was the Deus Ex Machina blowing up the planet, but really, he didn't really do anything for the most part.
Nope.
He lost.
Again.
Yep, again. And then we brought him back for the Tournament of Power, where he served as an anti-hero.
Yeah.
He was on our side. He was the good guy.
He was the
He
Batman of the
wasn't a
team.
bad guy. Yeah, he wasn't a bad guy. He was there, and he was very entertaining.
Mm-hmm.
We talked about him um, a lot in the last podcast when we were comparing him against Cell. But a lot of what we were saying is that Frieza was there in an entertainment aspect.
Mm.
Yeah, that's why we like Frieza there, because he's very entertaining. But in terms of him actually being when he came back as a bad guy again, he literally just again was a punching bag for Broly.
Yeah.
When you think about it, since Namek, he's done nothing.
Yeah, he is a failure. Pretty much.
And that's kind of sad when you think about it.
Yeah.
Grand scheme of things.
He's a well-liked failure, let's put it that way, because
Yeah.
I think for the most part, he is the majority's favorite villain. And it's a shame. He has never had a win. His biggest win was killing Krillin. Is that something to be so proud of? But yeah, apart from that, he gets all these good moments. He is a strong fighter. He is, in my opinion, he's Goku's eternal rival. Some people see Goku and Vegeta being the ongoing rivals, but I don't see them that way, to be honest. I see Frieza and Goku being eternal rivals because Frieza just keeps coming back. Even when you think he's gone for good and he's dead and he's written off the show, he still comes back. And
I see him as his arch nemesis. That's how I see Frieza.
Yeah, exactly. This is the war that's not going to end, and they can't kill him, which is a shame because he's so popular. I think he has the Master Roshi appeal, which is strange to say, but he's too well liked of a character to kill off. And they should have done it with Roshi in the Tournament of Power, and they didn't. And now they can't because they're not going to be that moment. They've even tried having Frieza dead, and he's so popular that they brought him back. And he died again, but brought him back. And now you can't kill him now. Two's already too many times. You can't kill him a third time and then expect people to believe he'll stay gone. Because why would anyone believe that anymore?
I think with the Roshi thing is you would have said that Roshi's too popular, that you can't kill him,
Hmm.
and they somehow managed to write this scene that
Would have been the perfect
was
ending.
perfect, that
Yeah,
nobody would have seen, that they somehow managed to create, that would have been, that should have been, but they didn't go with it.
yeah.
And I think and now that they've bypassed that, they can't do it with Roshi. And I think they've done something similar with Frieza, but
Mhm.
on a grander scale, that rather than a scene, it's a series of events.
Mhm.
And they've had so many series of events with Frieza now that he's locked in and you just can't get rid of him. But I think they just have to change step with him.
Mhm.
And I think that they just can't have him coming back again and again as a bad guy because he is going to become a joke. Um, and I think people will start to pick up on it. I mean, we joke about what we're saying about him being beat again and again, but I mean, obviously, he has done a lot of things. Like he was very impactful in the Tournament of Power. Like obviously, he was instrumental in helping them win.
Mhm.
Him and Goku were the ones that basically got rid of Jiren. At the end, they eliminated themselves to get him out. Without Frieza there, they wouldn't have won.
Yeah.
Um, but at the same time, he then said, "I'm going to be a bad guy again." But it's like, are you really going to be a bad guy? And then his first time coming back as a bad guy, he wants to be what, 5 centimeters taller, was it, or something
Yep.
like that?
Which
And it's
is
like,
it's a bit of a
wow,
joke.
yeah, it's like he's literally becoming, like I said, Team Rocket blasting off again when he gets beaten, and it's and you have to be so careful with such a popular character that you just don't. And it's like I loved him as an anti-hero,
Mhm.
and and Dragon Ball's so famous for being able to create anti-heroes that I think I wouldn't be wholly against anti-heroes, but I think it would have to be very careful
Yeah.
because it is Frieza and he's very manipulative and dark. And I think that they couldn't just say Frieza's now one of the gang. I
Mm.
don't think they could do it that way. I think it would have to be introduced into not the super gang, but somewhere else, maybe with the gods or something like that, but somewhere else where it would maybe meet his needs.
Yeah. See, I agree with the whole in the Broly film he was made into a bit of a joke. But the glimmer of hope from that is that with all of the Dragon Ball Super movies that they've done, like Battle of Gods, Resurrection F, and the Broly film, well, not the Broly film yet, at least, but with the other two, when they did the anime version, they fleshed everything out a bit more because obviously the film's only run for an hour and a half. They've got a lot to compact into that time frame. So with the episodes, they kind of beef it up a bit. I guess they follow the same structure pretty much for the most part, but they change a few details here and there, and they extend it to fit everything in nicer, I guess. Um, which helps because, especially with Battle of Gods, I guess this was the first viewing of Whis and Beerus, and they're completely new characters. You know, you've got a very short time frame to make us care about these two new characters, and I think the anime version did it better, where they extended things a little bit more. They had longer conversations. You were able to understand everything a bit better, but it still followed the same flow as the film. Everything still happened pretty much the same. They just extended things, which is nice. And I feel like for the Broly film, since the main part of the well, it's called Broly. You know, it's about Broly and his story. It's not about Frieza. Frieza's a side character in this film, and this is the first time you see him after the Tournament of Power. And since he's a side character, we don't see too much of him. And the bits we do see, he's not acting the way that Frieza did in the Tournament of Power. You know,
Yeah.
he's getting demolished by Broly. He's being a bit of a joke. He does have a few one-liners here and there, which are nice and typical of Frieza, but overall, it's not Frieza. You know, it's not the same Frieza. And I feel like if they do rehash the Broly film in anime form. They can go a bit more in depth of what Frieza's been getting up to since the Tournament of Power, how he's built up his army again, how Broly manages to get onto the ship and all that stuff. They can beef it up a bit more. And please change the wish of wanting the Dragon Balls to be 5 centimeters tall. You don't need to have that. Have some different wish. Change what he wants for the wish. You know, he doesn't need it. He doesn't need that. You know, and he can still be beat by Broly throughout the film. That's fine. You know, we need to show that Broly is strong, and having him be Frieza, that's obviously a big statement to make. But don't have it, go down exactly how it did with Golden Frieza, who was a last man standing in the Tournament of Power, not even putting up any sort of fight. Like, come on. I get it, but also, he's supposed to be strong.
Yeah, because he did manage to hold his own a bit against Jiren, at least.
Yeah.
And I mean, there are plenty of discussions online about Jiren versus Broly. So, I mean, he wouldn't just get absolutely stomped. I don't really believe that.
No.
And I mean, he did get absolutely stomped by Broly. Like, it was just an absolute wash. But so I think there would be at least something. He'd get beat 100%. Like, Frieza would lose.
Yeah.
But at least he'd get a few hits in here and there.
Yeah.
But yeah,
it didn't need to be as one-sided.
Yeah, like I think he literally just got slammed into a wall, and that was it.
Yeah, I mean, he does kill Paragus, but I mean,
but Broly doesn't know that.
He was unarmed and not fighting or anything. He just went pew, dead.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure Broly doesn't know that.
He doesn't.
No, I think he literally thinks it is just a stray beam.
Yeah.
Of death. No, I don't think that they're doing him justice anymore, and I think it is very sad for Frieza. I think it's just he has been on a downward slope since Namek.
Yeah.
And I think he'll never be as good as he was on Namek. I think he definitely was great in the Tournament of Power.
Yeah.
From an entertainment standpoint. From a power standpoint and a fighter standpoint, not particularly.
I mean, he
stood about
a few people.
He stood about a lot.
He did, but he did also eliminate like maybe 5 people, something like that.
Yeah, but I mean, being sneaky for the most part.
Yeah,
I mean, yeah.
But whatever works.
Yeah, but I mean, I would. That's not. I think again, he was useful in it. He was useful in the Tournament of Power, but I don't think he was as impactful as he was on Namek. He didn't have the gravitas as he did on Namek, and I think that he's definitely been. I wouldn't say they did as much justice to him as a comeback as, say, like you would look at the comeback of Roshi or something like that. Like, yeah, like I know obviously Roshi didn't spend as much time there, but when Roshi came back and he had his moment, that was like the return of Roshi, and I will not forget that. The return of Frieza in the Tournament of Power, whilst impactful to me, and I will remember it, there aren't any specific moments of Frieza that I remember, other than maybe the elimination of Jiren, but that's not specifically just Frieza.
Yeah, the main thing that comes to my head when I think of Frieza and Tournament of Power is his time with Frost. And even then, it's like, is that really his biggest highlight? Like him showing Frost that he can be buff? Yeah. And then that's it, eliminating him?
Yeah.
Okay.
Like the fight with Dispo and stuff like that. Like there are cool moments.
Yeah.
And there are sneaky Frieza moments, but there are not power moments. Yeah. And I think that's what I mean. Whereas like, so when you've got your comeback moments, I think you had some good moments and you had some entertaining moments from Frieza when he came back, but there was nowhere near the impact you had back when he was on Namek. And I think that's the problem, that he has been on a downward spiral since since his original iteration, and I think that is the problem, that you have to be careful about bringing back
Mhm.
a returning character that's as popular, is if you don't write it properly, they become essentially a joke, and he
Yeah.
has that. There is that threat for Frieza,
Mhm.
that he's one of the most popular characters in Dragon Ball, and he could just be winding down. And I would hate if that happened to Frieza, because I love Frieza.
Yeah. So I've been thinking of how it would be possible to make him a main villain again. Like someone actually scary, someone who puts up a fight, someone who will be a challenge for the gang. And you need to assume a few things here because of the way that the anime ended, and because of the Broly film, and the timeline is a bit skewed. We don't know what's going to happen. If they bring back the Super Anime, how are they going to start it? Are they going to go straight into the Broly arc and follow the film like they did the previous two films and just make them canon straight away? Or are they going to go down a different route first and then bring Broly in later? Who knows? So I'm assuming that if they do that anime way, they'll bring the Broly film in straight away. That'll be the next canon thing, and just redo the movie again. And for argument's sake, I'm gonna say they don't change a thing about Frieza. Frieza acts exactly the way he did in the Broly film. You know, he still wants his wish of being 5 centimeters taller. He still gets completely dominated by Broly and then runs away into the distance. And that's the last we see of Frieza. And that's fine. I'm fine with that. Well, I'm not fine with that to happen. I would rather something happened. But if that is how they want to portray Frieza, then fair enough. Okay, fine. So that's the last we see of Frieza for a while. And we are supposed to forget about him. Well, you know, the rest of the story goes on as intended for a while. And then after, I don't know, if they want to do the Moro arc first or whatever, they can do all of that stuff. But whatever. In the future, after more stuff happens, we finally get around to seeing Frieza again. And we realize maybe it's been a few years at this point. Maybe they've done the entire time skip up until superhero film, where Trunks and Goten are a bit older and all of this stuff's happened. It could be that long. Who knows? That's still like what? Maybe only like 5-6 years into the future after the end of Broly, I guess. Since everyone, well, the kids at least are still kids, and they're teenagers in the super film. So a couple of years, at least 5, 6, 7 years, maybe. So let's say it's been that much of a time jump, and we're finally seeing Frieza again, and we realize that after the Broly fight, he realizes that he's been embarrassed. He realizes that, you know, he did train for a few months to get this new golden form, and it wasn't even close to being good enough to being beaten by another monkey. He can't believe it. He's realizing there's more Saiyans that he didn't kill, and he's annoyed that this new one, Broly, is insanely powerful. Like, more powerful than Goku and Vegeta on their own. And he's like, he can't believe it. He's getting bested by another Saiyan. Like, how unbelievable is this? Frieza's world is tearing apart. So, for these past 5, 6, 7 years, however long it's been, he actually trains full time. He's in the gym getting those gains. He's doing all the protein powder. He's getting buff. And he's been going all out. And this is the first time he's trained for a long, long period of time. You know, he did 3 months of training to get Golden Frieza. And that's the extent of his training ever. That's all he's ever done. All his previous forms, his 4 forms of Doom, you know, he never had to train for them. He could just change into them. That was his thing for the Z Saga. He knew he had other forms. He could change into them. He didn't need to train for them. That was it. For Golden Frieza, yeah. For Golden Frieza, he actually had to train. So for this, he's trained for 6, 7 years. And you see maybe like a training montage or something, the type of stuff he was going through. Maybe he was on his own, or maybe he was building up the Frieza Force and training with them. Who knows? Either way, he's been training, and we see this. And it cuts back to present day, and you see him with the Dragon Balls. He has the Dragon Balls. He's managed to acquire them somehow. We don't know yet, at least. Or maybe the Frieza Force managed to gather them again. because they've done that plenty of times before somehow. So they've done it again. They've got the Dragon Balls. Frieza gets his wish. And he wishes to be 5 centimeters taller. He gets his wish. This happens, yeah? Because they've already made it canon that he wants that wish. So I'm going to go with it. I'm going to go with it. He gets the wish, right? So we see a taller Frieza. Maybe he goes all out and says, you know what? 5 centimeters isn't enough. I want 10 or something like that. Anyway, he looks different. He's taller, obviously. And we find out that in this time, because to make him a big bad, we need a mini bad. Yeah, he can't be the only one because in every arc there's a mini bad guy to get through first to get to the main big bad. That happens every single time. Whether it's just by having different forms or whether there's an actual person underneath. But we find out within these 6-7 years, he finds his long lost brother. Oh my god. Cooler's involved now. We bring Cooler in.
Definitely needs 10 centimeters if he's going to be big Cooler.
Because Frieza is the baby brother of the two. And maybe this was the thing. Maybe this is how they could do it. Maybe he finds Cooler quite early and then the two of them are training together. And that's how he gets it. And then he kind of gets a bit more jealous of the fact Cooler's taller than him. And that's why he makes the wish. He goes all out. He wants 10 centimeters instead of 5.
Make Cooler canon.
Yeah. So they bring Cooler in. And Cooler is the big bad of the arc where, you know, Goku and Vegeta and the gang find them again because maybe Frieza wants to come back to Earth to finally kill off the Saiyans once and for all. And we expect Frieza to be the mini bad and Cooler to be the big bad. But we see Cooler do all of the fighting. That's what we see. Because Frieza wants his thing, but he wants his brother to do it. And yeah, everyone is expected to know how good Frieza is. So we're thinking, okay, Cooler's the big bad, really. We know how powerful Frieza is, and the guys can obviously defeat him. So it is what it is. And Cooler's fighting, and he's dominating. He's doing great. Like, he's been training with Frieza as well for years, potentially. So they're both strong. Really, really, really strong. And maybe Broly's there as well. That would actually be a good addition if he's part of the gang at this point. Get revenge on all of the Saiyans all at once. And, yeah, everyone's struggling against Cooler. To the point where maybe Cooler kills one of the three. Let's say Broly, Vegeta, and Goku are all there together, and they're the three people trying to take out Cooler. Cooler manages to kill one of them. I'm expecting not Goku. So Vegeta or Broly. Yeah, and I think the safe bet might be Vegeta, unfortunately. Yeah. So let's say Cooler kills Vegeta. We're left with Goku and Broly. And they're basically out of it. Both of them. Because Cooler is so strong. Vegeta gets cocky. Not Vegeta. Frieza gets cocky. Vegeta can't get cocky. He's dead at this point. So Frieza gets cocky. And he's taunting the Saiyans saying, I didn't even need to be involved in this. And I'm finally getting my revenge after all of these years. After the years of training. And he turns to Cooler. And we see the two brothers next to each other. And Frieza's like, I've got it from here. Woof. Kills Cooler in one fatal blow. Don't know how he does it. Maybe he's got a new technique or something. Who knows? He's been trained for this long. But he kills Cooler in one shot. Easy. You know, it makes no effort of it. Cooler's dead. And everyone's like, what? Cooler's dead. And Cooler was the one who's putting in all the damage. And we see a fusion of Broly and Goku. And these are the ones that needed to defeat Frieza. I think that's how they could do it. Frieza's all-powerful. You think Cooler's the big bad. He's took out Vegeta. And everyone's already struggling. Now they need to struggle against Frieza, who is more powerful than Cooler. After all, they can't defeat him no matter what. They're trying everything. Maybe Frieza's learned a new form. He's taller. Maybe he's got a new form as well. But, yeah. They can't defeat him. Broku.
Best name ever. Broku.
Broku. Yeah. And yeah, they need a fuse because that's worked so many times in the past. And with the Rage and the Ultra Instinct together, potentially that could be an interesting thing. Well, just having Broly and Goku, who are two completely different body types, fusing together, that could be interesting to see. Or maybe they don't even need to fuse. Maybe they just need to go all out. Master Ultra Instinct and full Rage Broly together. And that's the only thing that can stop Frieza. But we see an epic fight, as expected. And that's the only way they can take him out. Once and for all. He's finally dead forever. He doesn't come back. But he had this big blow-off match. You see how strong he actually manages to get. And yeah, I think that would be how you can get him as a main again. Bring in someone who seems so strong, someone who makes sense to Frieza to be a kind of secondary bad guy, like Cooler, and have Frieza be the one to kill him.
I suppose you get to see the savage side of Frieza again as well.
Yeah, an absolute betrayal of killing his own family because he's jealous of the fact that Cooler took out the Prince of all Saiyans, who Frieza has tried so many times to kill and hasn't. And Cooler does get the job done, and when you expect Frieza to be happy about it, he's actually a bit jealous and annoyed, and he kills Cooler so that he can finish the job of the other Saiyans.
No, and to be honest, I wouldn't be mad about Cooler coming in. I'm not mad. I find Cooler quite relatively interesting as one of the non-canon bad guys.
Yeah.
He's definitely not one of the ones I hated.
Yeah, there's a lot of people I hated from the films.
Yeah, I don't mind Cooler. I think he's got some interesting forms. I'm not a fan of the Getty Star stuff,
no,
but his designs and stuff like that. It's like the other Broly's, the non-canon Broly's. Like, it can get silly, but the designs of him
look really good.
Yeah, it looks very good. So again, it's if you redesign him right, just like the new Broly, if you redesign him right, it can be done well. So there's no reason. But yes, especially the big form of Cooler. I think the cool face masks and stuff like face covering and stuff like that looks great. I love that.
Yeah.
So no, I wouldn't be mad at that at all. It sounds very cool. I like that. But he would definitely have to go. Like after that, it would have to be done. That would be it.
Yeah, because we couldn't have an arc where it's just the gang versus Frieza again, because that's been done already too many times. Twice, I guess, in Z and in Super. So we need a mini boss, and I think having Cooler there as this evil new villain, which Frieza is secretly stronger than, I think that would work.
Yeah,
because it makes sense. I mean,
there's not really anybody else. Like, I can't imagine anybody else Frieza would really tolerate.
Exactly.
There's a reason that Frieza would tolerate Cooler.
Yeah.
There's exposition that would allow him to do so.
Yeah. Because they're not going to find a new strong Frieza Force member. Let's face it.
Like, he had like the person he beat up. Like, there was kind of justification behind it, I suppose. And then, like, he was tough because he got battered about. Like,
But this is like the third wave of Frieza Force at this point. Try.
Like, but Cooler, like, he has justification to at least pretend to use him. Like, in the end, we would know that he was using him, but Frieza can use his manipulative ways to at least, like, basically use Cooler as basically a meathead. As the muscle. Exactly. Because as we've seen from the larger versions of Cooler, if they just used the strength versions, he could literally just be the muscle. If he follows in like King Cold's versions where he's just this big strong, they don't have to use the smaller versions, like Metacooler, stuff like that. They can just use just the big versions from the films. They can do what they want because he's not canon.
Like, I know maybe killing Vegeta is a bit harsh, but at the same time, they don't need to do that. The three of them could be there all together. Or maybe Broly doesn't even need to be there. Maybe it could just be Goku and Vegeta But I think Broly would make sense to be there since Broly did batter Frieza previously. So just having him around for the fight would make sense. And Frieza gets a bit of revenge by being able to beat him up a bit now.
Mm.
But even if they didn't kill one of them, they could all three of them could be pretty much down and out because of Cooler. And then Frieza's like, okay, let me get the finishing blow. And then he just kills them because he's ruthless, and that's who Frieza is. He doesn't actually care about anyone. And yeah, he just kills his brother just to show off that he is actually strong, and he's kind of tired of him now.
Yeah, they could. I mean, if you didn't want, I mean, you could just kill him because we've got Dragon Ball, so it doesn't matter. Or you could just do it where they were going to fuse into Gogeta, and Frieza saw it and just basically gets in the middle of them, batters one of them out the way, and starts beating on one of them, just saying, "Not that again. I'm not having any of that." And whilst they're doing it, say Goku grabs Broly and says, "You know what I'm about to do. You know what I wanted to do. I know you don't like it because, well, I used it on you, but you know it works.
Yeah.
You're gonna have to do it with me." And obviously, Broly could be hesitant because he's probably very afraid of Gogeta, which would make sense. And there could be a mini dynamic there, which would be quite interesting to address.
Mm-hmm.
He could be genuinely terrified of Gogeta, because he could like hear Vegeta and Goku talking about Gogeta,
Yeah.
and he could be like genuinely terrified of hearing them talk about him because he could be scared of Gogeta, which would be quite cool.
Yeah.
Just a mini bit of exposition to hear, like, or like they could talk about fusion earlier in the film. And if it's a film that they do, for instance, or earlier in the show, you could hear him over talk about Gogeta, and you could show that Broly's scared of Gogeta, which would be quite cool.
Yeah.
So there's loads of exposition that would allow you to look into this. So there's loads of options with this, but no, I actually think that'd be quite cool.
I can just picture in my head a 3-on-1 beam struggle. Imagine Rage Broly, Ultra Ego Vegeta, and UI Goku all doing their beams at the same time towards Frieza. I think that would be a cool image to see. So many colors.
So bright.
Yeah, I just think that would be a cool image. And the three of them taking out Frieza all at once. The three Saiyans finally standing up and defeating the guy who, killed the rest of the Saiyans once and for all. He's finally gone for good. That could be a good image.
No, I am mad at it. I like it. No, you should be a DBS writer, mate.
Yeah, I mean, I'm open. If anyone's listening out there, take me, hire me on. I'll take it.
Carry on with listening.
Yeah, but yeah, I think that would be a good way to get him as a villain again.